There have been so many strong and impactful Pokemon throughout the entire anime. Some Pokemon of which we didn't actually expect much to begin with turned out to be some of the strongest Pokemon in the entire anime. Some of those Pokemon being Beware, who casually knocked out Ultra Beasts, and Greninja getting a powerful form and dominating Alon's Charizard, who was on steroids. Now, not all Pokemon have to be strong to show that they meet our expectations, as some Pokemon have such great backstory and lore that made Pokemon's story much more fulfilling. But of course, there are Pokemon who we actually expected great things from who turned out to be failures and overall wasted potential. And I have a feeling that number 3 on this list will be a shocker to all of you. My name is Pokey, and in today's video, we talk about Pokemon that became wasted potential. Now, to start off this list, a lot of these are going to be Pokemon Ash has caught and a few Pokemon from random points of the series. Coming in at number 5, we have a Pokemon who needs to be on this list, which is Ash's Goodra. Holy crap, bro. If I had to name one Pokemon out of these 5 as the ones that got screwed over the most, I would say this Pokemon is definitely up there. I mean, what were you thinking? Ash's XYZ team was phenomenal. You have Talonflame taking on Moltres, and then you have Greninja taking on Dianthus Gardevoir. But this is the first time Ash has had a fully evolved pseudo-legendary, and we treat the poor baby by losing to a freaking guillotine. It had so much potential after that phenomenal fight against Clement's Luxray, but then after that it was treated as a joke, which really hurt, man. It almost felt like it was just there to fill in the last spot. I genuinely loved Goodra too, man. It was so cute, but to see its strength never fully unleash after that amazing gym battle with Clement was so sad. And I bet a lot of you can agree with me on that one. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Marshadow. Now I'm just going to go up and say it, that Marshadow as a Pokemon has some of the best story behind any Pokemon, as he literally could make such a powerful villain. His powers, for those who don't know, is so cool. It allows him to copy the abilities and combat style of others. But you're telling me that he gets only one appearance, that being in the movie? And also, for those of you who say that he appeared in Sun and Moon, I do not want to hear that, because he appeared for literally 5 seconds and just went away. One of the coolest Pokemon gets such limited screen time, and it makes me so mad. I feel like Marshadow could have had an entire arc or even a YouTube special series about him. His powers and his personality makes him perfect for it. It sucks because his design is also amazing too. It's phenomenal, the black, and then he turns his colors and then Now we are at number 3, and as I said in the beginning of the video, it might shock some of you, but it's Eternatus. Yes, I said it like that. Fight me, I don't care. The reason I'm absolutely furious with Eternatus has nothing to do with the reason I had with Marshadow with the, less screen time. It's because he was terribly weak. This Pokemon was hyped up from the beginning of the game and part of Legend, and I was hyped to maybe learn about a universal level threat since, I love lore. But instead we see bro for 5 minutes to lose to 2 dogs with weapons. Now I'm not mad that he lost, that was to be expected, but I'm mad that he was weak not only from the boss battle, but also from a story perspective. The only thing bro did was cloud Galar into darkness, which is just another Tuesday in the Pokemon world, let's be honest. And people like to bring up the fact that he was capable of warping space and time, and I'm like, dog, Ultra Beast can do that. Heck, even Gardevoir or any average psychic Pokemon can do that. It's not impressive. I wish that he just felt more like an actual world-ending threat, because that's what made Necrozma so intriguing, because of not only his phenomenal lore, but his overwhelming strength. Necrozma was also on that timing. He was, oh my gosh. Whereas we get to see Eternatus get beat once, then turn into the giant form, just to get beat twice. I'm telling y'all, the doggos have Eternatus on a leash, man. It feels just so underwhelming. Especially since Eternatus had such an amazing Gmax design, or at least in my opinion. Also, I'm not saying that every final boss has to be a world-ending threat to be good, but I mean it helps breed more tension and lore to the Pokemon hierarchy. It probably could have saved that game from that horrendous story too. Now, before we move on to number 2, I just want to say if you're enjoying the video or if you watch my channel on a regular basis, I'd love for it if you subscribe, as I want to try and reach 20,000 subscribers before November. It won't be possible without you. Thank you. Now, with number 2, we have Ash's Melmetal, and oh my gosh, I have lots of things to say, and they are far from nice. Ever since Ash's Melmetal evolved, we have never got to see his true potential. The only notable fights he won was against Kukui's and Polion. I mean, he even lost to Gladion Sivali. Melmetal was a very special Pokemon too, since it was the first time Ash actually had a mythical Pokemon on his team, but it honestly put in more work as a Meltan than it did as a Melmetal. I love this Pokemon too. It was such a shame how it ended up. And as for the final Pokemon on this list, we have none other than Xerneas and Yveltal. Now, the main issue I have with these Pokemon isn't related to strength, but rather we just don't get to see much of them outside of the game, or even the games themselves for that matter. In any piece of Pokemon media, we barely see enough of these Pokemon. In fact, most of their screen time is from a cutscene, and they didn't even appear in the XY series other than a flashback from my knowledge. I believe Zygarde definitely needed screen time considering how butchered he was in the XY games, but Xerneas and Yveltal felt so unfinished and could have been amazing legendaries. The concept of life and death is so fun and interesting in any piece of fictional media, but we know so little about them other than the fact that we know what they represent. It's honestly really sad that we watched a series with their logos on it being X and Y, and yet Zygarde had more representation than both of them combined. I feel like they could have prevented this by including more flashbacks on them in X and Y, and also talking about the original Ultimate Weapon, since that's a big part of their lore. Or even their very own movie, since the Diancie movie did not give them both justice since they only really appeared in the later half of the movie. It's one of the only things the XYZ series did wrong, and I only wish that Xerneas and Yveltal have much more involvement in Legends EA and they get the treatment they deserve. For such amazing concepts, they had by far the most wasted potential on this list, or at least in my opinion. But I still hated how they treated some Pokemon like Marshadow and Goodra, because they could have been such phenomenal Pokemon if written well, and they just didn't do that, and instead we get Guillotine. Great. And there's absolutely no reason they couldn't have Eternatus be a hard boss battle because, you know, Ultra Necrozma existed. And as for Melmetal, he could have been an amazing mythical Pokemon despite coming out of, you know, nowhere. And the worst part about Melmetal is the fact that they made him this kind of brute-like Pokemon, and the fact that he got beat so many different times and the battles he's won against aren't even that memorable is so crazy to me. All of these Pokemon are key examples of just horrible writing decisions. That's just literally it. Because in what world do we live in for a mythical Pokemon in a pseudo-legendary to be some of the weakest in their own class? That's what I want to know. As you guys can tell, I am very mad about this. But guys, what Pokemon do you think should be on this list? Do you agree with most of the Pokemon I chose, or do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. But friends, that's all Yuki wrote, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.